So a reminder and review that assessments can be informal or formal. And right now, let's concentrate a little bit more on the formal summative assessments. When you use a formal assessment, often you need to use a checklist or a rubric. And this is because formal assessments are often beyond right or wrong answers. Now, for a test, you will often have right or wrong answers, such as fill in the blank or multiple choice. But for elementary general music, or really music education in the schools in general, you typically are assessing final performances or a final product from a project. And so often you need a checklist or a rubric because there's multiple components that you need to assess. So rubrics are a little different than checklists because they're a tool for teachers to communicate expectations for an assignment, provide focused feedback on works in progress, and to grade the final products. So often you can share the rubric or checklist up front with students at the beginning of the project or at the beginning of rehearsing a performance so that students know what they are working toward. For example, your Billboard Wars assignment, I provided the rubric up front to you. For your final learning segment, your unit provided the rubric up front to you. For your final teaching, I presented a checklist up front to you because that was more appropriate to use than a rubric. So how do you decide the difference, which one to use, and what's the difference really between a rubric and a checklist? Well, a rubric is on a scale or a continuum. So that's different from a checklist because a checklist is you do it or you don't. You sing in tune or you don't. You stand with appropriate posture or you don't. But some things need to be a little bit more on a continuum sometimes. Perhaps if you're assessing singing in tune, the student begins with the first note singing in tune, but then wanders and then comes back to singing in tune. Or perhaps they sing the entire thing in tune, or perhaps they don't sing it in tune at all. So in that case, there's more of a continuum. So you can assess the level of performance as opposed to them doing it or not. That's up to you as the teacher. Depends on your learner outcome. So when you think about how to create a rubric, you usually use 4 different levels. And level 4 is usually the highest level, the exemplary level. Level 3 is usually acceptable. Level 2 is working toward acceptable. And level 1 is typically unacceptable. So these are some things you could measure on a continuum in music, such as posture, if you look at the bottom. Consistently demonstrates correct playing or singing posture. Regularly demonstrates good playing or singing posture. With some reminders demonstrates correct playing or singing posture. With assistance demonstrates correct playing posture. So that's on a continuum. Consistently means they're doing it independently consistently. Regularly means they're typically doing it, but they may need one reminder. A level 2 would be they need more than one reminder. And level 1 would be they need lots of reminders. There is no evidence of independence yet. So you'll notice that a lot of the words stay the same, such as demonstrates correct playing posture. That stays pretty much the same, but then you change the word to begin. Or look at phrasing. All phrasing is correct and matches the piece. Most phrasing is correct and matches the piece. Some phrasing is correct and matches the piece. Or no phrasing is correct and matches the piece. Notice how just that one word is tweaked. So, when you think about our Billboard Wars assessment rubric, you have the 4 levels: exemplary, meeting expectations, emerging, and not meeting expectations. And you'll notice it says the billboard clearly encourages students to stop and look at it with visual presentation. The billboard encourages students to stop and look at it. That means it's not so clear, but they're still encouraged to look at it. The billboard somewhat encourages students to glance at it. The billboard does not encourage students to stop and look at it. The billboard clearly promotes musicking and furthering musicking or research outside of school. And look at meeting expectations. The billboard clearly promotes musicking. That's different because it's not that extra step of level 4. Let's look at the difference between level 3 and level 2. Level 2 says the billboard somewhat promotes musicking as opposed to clearly promotes musicking. In level 1, the billboard does not promote musicking. So again, it's on a continuum, and the continuum steps should be equal. All the time, most of the time, some of the time, none of the time. Also, you'll notice each dimension only measures one thing, not multiple things. That's how you can separate out different skills that need to be measured or concepts or pieces of knowledge. So let's go back to Miss Slattery's Caribbean Party, our GRASPS assessment, our summative assessment. Well, if I were to create a rubric for this for formally assessing student growth, and if they've met the learner objective, one of my learner outcomes could be students perform arrangement part accurately, okay? And my rubric would be level 1, which is the lowest level. Student performs some or none of the arrangement part with accuracy. Level 2 would be student performs most of the arrangement part with accuracy. Level 3, students perform the arrangement part with accuracy. And level 4, student performs the arrangement part with accuracy and can teach it to others. And then another learner outcome might be students improvise over the harmonic structure to the song Mary Ann. A level 1 would be student improvises a melody that does not evidence understanding of tonic and dominant. Level 2, approaching the standard, well, student improvises a melody that evidences some understanding of tonic and dominant. Level 3 would be student improvises a melody that evidences understanding of tonic and dominant. And a level 4 would be student improvises a melody that evidences understanding of tonic and dominant and sounds like a cohesive melody. So that extra step exceeding expectations.